resolving pain, whether it's physical or emotional, and to be honest, I don't think you can really separate the two, because if you have physical pain, it's going to influence you emotionally, is a process of letting go. In a well-known book by Eckhart Tolle, A New Earth, he talks about letting go of this thing called the pain body. Now, I certainly had a pain body, because this picture of me, I was in pain, a lot of pain. That was after a couple days of back spasms. I couldn't get off the ground. I think I was in my early 30s. I'm in my late 40s at this point. So that was a long time ago. And that was the end of a road for me of what was leading up to that was chronic pain for many, many years. SI joint issues, plantar fasciitis, back pain in general, neck spasms, the tinnitus. My ears started to ring when I was 13. Things went really wrong at kind of a young age. And was it all physical? Well, I was certainly stuck in a compromised state, so that was a pain body right there. I was stuck in this cycle of tension that we call extension, fight or flight. I was living like that. That was my normal. Was there a psychological, emotional part of that? Absolutely. What started what? I don't know. I was a happy kid. Middle school years were, like it is for a lot of people, pretty difficult. That's kind of when my life kind of went downhill to a degree, in my own mind at least, and that's the important part. It's the story that I told myself at that point in time, because I was too young to really make sense of life's events. And that's kind of, back then, you were kind of left on your own to figure things out. And so I, unfortunately, didn't figure things out the right way. So in those years, but I was also in already a compromised state, because my bite was off, my head was tilted, I was over on my right side, and I got locked into that position by a well-meaning orthodontist who straightened my teeth on a jaw that was crooked and a head that was tilted. So that didn't help things, because it influenced the neck. So I had a physical body that was painful at a very young age, but I also had clearly a pain body that was being perpetuated through negative thought, through unhappiness, and I'll say depression. And that pain body becomes it's your ego. So it comes from ego. It comes from the thoughts about yourself, the story that you tell yourself about yourself. And you either believe that story, you wholeheartedly believe it, and sometimes you start to go into a negative direction, or you can believe you're the greatest thing in the world. You might as well believe that, since it's still opinion. But a lot of people get into this cycle. They're in pain, they're unhappy, and that becomes their story. And they tell themselves that story, like, oh, I am unhappy, I am in pain. Now, that is just negative emotion, negative feelings. And negative emotion is destructive. It creates more and more tension, and it's not good for the body. Great book about this is Why Zebras Don't Get Ulcers. It's about the stress response. You're just thinking about your own self at that point is putting you into a stress response. If I have people think negative thoughts, they will go into this left AIC, right BC pattern that posture restoration describes as a state of right dominance. So whenever you're threatened, you go over to your right. So letting go of that process, of those negative thoughts, of that pain body, is what this book is very much about. So the second half of this video is an interview I did with a friend of mine in Poland. And he was a client back in 2021. It was definitely during COVID. I think it was 2021. And when he got on the call with me, I could see he was in a pain body state, because his head position, his jaw position, his bite was all off. I knew immediately that I really wasn't going to be able to help him through normal PRI methods of techniques, because his issues were up in the cranium. And when the cranium is involved, everything gets much more difficult. Now, he's going to tell the story a little bit, but the conversation that we have the most is about the psychology of the suffering, because there is this saying that pain is normal, but suffering is man-made. Because the way that you react to your painful story, the way you identify with that pain, and the story you tell yourself, and the story you tell other people, it either reinforces suffering or you can let go of it. So a lot of people have a lot of negative energy when they come in to see me. I can't say a lot, but enough. But you can see it. You just feel it. I'm very perceptive to energy. I'm pretty aware of things, and you can just tell when people are stuck in this state. At that point, I kind of know I'm going to be the next person to fail them because, it's part of their story. Oh, all these people are failing me. They can't tell me what's wrong. They never stick with anything, but they don't even realize they're stuck in this state. And like I say in the video, in the interview with Maciej, and he's a really smart guy. He's really aware. and he's got a great story to tell. And I wanted him to tell his story, and everything is in his own words. I let him speak. Like we talked about what he wanted to talk about, and he wanted to really hammer home the point that you have to let go of victimhood, otherwise you will never improve.
I'm recalling that 2021. Yes.
Yeah. So when I saw your head position, I immediately thought to myself, oh, this is not going to be good.
Oh, wow. You didn't
Well,
say then. You were like, probably something bigger is going on, but you will
yeah.
try.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. You can try some of these techniques, but I
Yeah.
had a feeling that the techniques that work for 80% of the people, because they don't have cranium issues. I had a feeling they would, if they helped at all, they might help a little bit, but that your bigger issue is going to be in your cranium somewhere, whether it was vision or jaw and teeth, which I always suspect jaw and teeth first. Yeah,
Well,
that's what I.
actually, it was everything, actually, to be honest. I needed orthotics, new glasses, and dental intervention. So it was hierarchy of PRI. I was the ultimate patient, like you.
Yeah.
I was really in a bad. Before I saw your video, I was really considering, ending my life. I was fearful about living a long life.
So was I.
Oh my God! I was like, this was a fear of mine. That this life, if it goes longer, I became a fearful of living a long life. That's absurd, but it was mine.
No, I tell that story often for myself in my mid-20s. That's how I felt like I was 85. And I could barely move without I couldn't move without pain. So yeah, no, I understand.
I remember when we first met, you started asking me about my personality, what books are on my bookshelf or something. You started,
Yeah.
looking at the big picture already. Like you were kind of, getting along with my life, know a little bit about it. I was like,
Yeah.
that's curious, that's interesting. He's not asking for the, straight and forward questions. He's asking like some everything. That's why did you do that?
Oh, why? Well, because I need to know the psychology of the person that I'm working with. Because because the question, once I see a cranium in your position, I have to think, how'd that happen?
Oh yeah.
What's going, and I know you're suffering, so I need to know your psychology.
Oh
And
God.
I don't know how much suffering went into the position. I'm trying to figure out, okay, was it psychological suffering that contributed to the position I'm now seeing?
Yeah.
Or was it structural, like the way his face developed that put him in this position and the suffering came afterwards? So I'm trying to figure all that out because I know it all comes together.
Mm.
And that's why I start to, and how intellectually curious you are about this stuff. If you,
Oh yeah.
if you just said, Neil, just fix me, this is not going to work because this has been a long journey.
Yes.
Yeah.
But not, first when I, getting your videos one after another, I thought about the pelvis, about the
Oh,
techniques, and then going up the hierarchy, it's really like, you don't have to strain that hard.
Right.
If you go higher, you start to realize that just letting go can, release some pattern and then, release some emotion or expressing yourself, like not being so, strained and just expressing yourself through dance. That's one example. Can, lead to some changes.
Yeah.
But okay, let's touch on dancing.
Okay.
It was your story that inspired me.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, he's like patho PEC. I'm like, consider myself like patho PEC. And what the freak? He's like being an instructor of dance or salsa. I was like, sitting at home, like not going anywhere. I was like, no doctor could help me. No, everybody's like, couldn't understand me. And I was like, that's it. Like, and this guy is like me, has the same, underlying issues. Like, how could we even feel safe to move? And he's like teaching people salsa. I was like, that's bollocks. Like, I'm gonna, like, out of this anger, I came like, nobody will freaking tell me what to do. I'm just gonna go and that's it. I was all my life I was so shy of dancing. I was always super shy at school and everywhere. Okay, like if it's gonna be end of my life, let's have some fun at least.
Yeah.
Oh my God, it was like out of this misery and anger, like frustration. I was like, freaking, let's do this. Like I don't care. Like he can do it. I can do it.
Yeah.
So I started going. It was like once a week. I was really scared.
Yeah.
I remember myself sitting in the waiting room, just looking on the floor or the book I was reading, and that's it. Not getting any contact with the people. I was even on the class. You have these glasses windows. You can see everywhere, but I didn't. I always was looking on my feet, not anywhere. So it started but through the sheer, I guess, exposure, I started, and it was after, I guess, I saw your video. So after I knew how to, the pain wasn't that scary because I knew how to handle it.
Right.
So I give myself another chance. It was 1 week, just assignment for me. Just you gotta go once a week, 2 hours. And for me, it was actually about the joy, the smile at somebody's face.
Yeah.
At the touch. You see, you make mistake, you smile, the other person see you smile, she smiles back at you.
Right.
You're
Absolutely.
both smiling, you're both touching. So
no big deal. No big deal.
Freedom of movement, expression. It was somehow, way to express myself where any other way I was like blocked but on the dance floor I was like, at least I got this. At least I got this space. It gives us like this space, safe container because Neil is doing this, and it wasn't, causing him more, irreversible damage. So he can do it. I could probably do it. So I was like, all in my head, it was working positively because all of those impacts.
Yeah.
About your story, for me it was really, really tough at the start to even go there because the shyness still was there, but the frustration and anger was so big that I was like, who cares? I'm gonna do it. If it's if it's the last days of my life, I'm gonna at least dance it out.
Yeah. You have nothing to lose.
Yes,
nothing to lose.
Exactly. I was a man who had nothing to lose, and paradoxically, in that anger, it was a force in some way. It was better than staying in apathy.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. This book of David R. Hawkins, Healing and Recovery.
Okay.
He talks about the scale of consciousness and something. And it's really he has some stages, like you can see the stages here, and you can see that the hopelessness, evil. You can see actually it's somewhere. I don't know, but the anger is quite high. It's not the lowest force in emotion. Like you can step up from anger to courage and upper limits, but staying in depression and apathy in blame, in self-blame. And that's like this huge pattern I was in. The feeling like a victim, like it was so huge. Like this pattern was like incredibly deep.
Yeah.
I didn't resolve it until like much later when I started working on my unconscious, really like being aware more of what's going on about my behavior. I was blowing out my money to physios, osteopathists, to Pilates classes, just to prove that I could not be helped. And it was like,
oh, that's fascinating.
That people hurt me so bad, that's their fault, to even prove that those people are bad and did bad things. So I'm going to show that I could not be helped. Like it's just one of those.
That happens. And I see it in comments on some of my YouTube videos and my Instagram. I see this. These are people that are out to prove that no one can help them.
Yeah.
And they don't have enough awareness to realize maybe they're the issue.
Yeah, but
That they
yeah.
create their own problems through that attitude. But I understand it comes from fear and anger. On some level, there's fear and anger, and
Yeah,
but
that's so
you have
scary.
to become you're smart. Like I knew you were smart like the moment we started speaking, I knew you were smart. So
Oh,
I
thanks.
know people who have that intelligence. They can go one of two ways.
Oh, yeah.
You really can. But like for me, once the awareness, I have good awareness, but I had to become aware of what to become aware of, right? And once I became aware, I was like, oh, it's just awareness will be life changing because
Yeah.
you'll see the big picture at that point. And then you can actually use all of your thoughts and your actions to support that. Instead of being, instead of being, instead of your thoughts controlling you, you're then able to use your thoughts productively.
Yeah. Proactively. Yes, yes. There
Yeah.
is no better way.
Yeah. Being a
No,
victim is there's no product.
well,
You can't be productive if you're still either blaming yourself for something or being a victim.
yeah, that's
There's
huge.
nothing productive. It's negative
That's
energy. There's
that's
nothing productive.
huge. Yes, that's huge vortex that sucks all many of your behaviors go into that. You don't know why you do it, but underlying issue is like you won't prove them wrong. They
Yeah.
hurt you so bad, they need to feel bad about what they did to you. So I'm
Yeah.
gonna kick myself ass, be in worse shape so that they can see how much they hurt me, and
Yeah.
it really damages only me. I'm damaging myself
Abs-
more and more and more just to
Absolutely.
show how much I was hurt. It's
Absolutely.
like absolutely self-destructive behavior, but
Yeah.
it was working to some point actually
Yeah.
until you are on the brink of death, and they haven't changed. Oh my
Yeah.
God, I will not change them. And it was like, oh my God, I need to save my own life. And oh
Exactly.
my goodness, it was like this
Yeah.
last moment, thing.
Yeah. That's fascinating. That you actually that you were able to pick up on that. And the fascinating thing also is that it doesn't mean you're a bad person. Like there's a lot of good people who get stuck in this. I don't think most I don't believe that people are bad inherently. I think life experiences and not having appropriate awareness
Hmm.
drives them into patterns of badness sense,
Yeah.
and they don't know how to get out of it because they're not given a better point of view. And they get they go deeper and deeper into this hole of negativity that they can't get out of. And so I believe most people are good. And so when I get nasty comments on a
Yeah.
YouTube, or I simply do not answer, because if I
Hmm.
answer, I'm feeding that addiction.
Yeah. I see. Yeah.
Because I see it. And so I'm not gonna, if I answer them, and I want to sometimes, but I can't convince them. No chance. Their mind is already made up, right? So, but if I answer, it gives them a validation, and it
Yeah.
feeds their addiction of negativity. They feed off it. And I'm not gonna be part of that. So I like, no, not answering you.
Knowledge to be gained and explore. Like
Yeah,
I'm not gonna give up because like I knew that your case needed that, and I believe that. So that's the consciousness. You have to change your outlook for what's what's possible, what's not possible.
correct. Yeah, I under I cannot emphasize enough how important it is to have like a good attitude in a sense. And
Oh,
it's very difficult to have a good attitude when you've been feeling like crap for
that's
your whole
it.
life for so
Yeah.
long. But if you're not, you're just holding on to this negative energy.
Yeah.
And it's destructive. It does no good for anybody, and least of all for you. And it's funny because I see some of the comments on my YouTube channel about my last video. Those are some negative, those people are holding them some negative energy. I they're not going to get better. Because
Yeah.
they're living their whole life opposed to other people like me or Ron Haraska, or their
It's
whole,
very easy, yeah.
their
It's
value in life is, oh, those people, they're wrong. That's
you
not
know
going to get you anywhere.
they are getting something out of this,
They're
you
getting
know.
something. Yeah,
Yeah,
it just feeds their pain body, as someone may say.
yeah, I can stress it a little more than you, I guess. Let me like few pages, like few sentences. Like, I believe there is nothing more disempowering and less productive than thinking of yourself as like this victim.
Yeah,
Unfortunately, when you experience the chronic pain, it's very difficult not to think in those terms, because you didn't ask for this to happen to you.
absolutely. I agree with you. I struggled.
And
Yeah.
from my own experience, I know for a fact that to get ahead in life, you simply must stop thinking of yourself as a victim
Mhm.
and take positive action.
Mhm.
You have no choice.
You have no
Uh,
choice.
no one will come save you.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
only
Yeah.
you,
I'll just save you.
only you can change the situation.
Yeah.
You must let go of all old hurts
Mhm.
and move forward. You must be proactive. And that applies also, that applies both for seeking resolution from the pain you're currently in,
Mhm.
and as well as discovering, some happiness like that is currently hidden from your view.
Mhm.
And just do what you can and let the rest just happen.
Yeah.
And I know it's hard, and I know it's hard. It's so hard.
It is.
It's really hard. And you need somebody. My brother was like my brother was my support person. He really was calling me on my own bullshit. And I was in a victim mode. He was like, that's bullshit. You're not that person,
Yeah.
you're not, you're bullshitting. Like, I don't want to talk about, with you today, yeah, and on that topic. And I was like trying to feed that, vortex of
Yeah.
victimhood. And he
But
was
you
not
don't
letting
know.
me do that.
It's like, but you don't know what it's like to be me, right?
Yes.
And that's what you keep thinking. Like, you don't understand. You don't understand what I've been through. Great. But the thing is, you've been through it. You got to move on at some point. Otherwise, you stay stuck. You got to move forward. And you can't move forward unless you let go of whatever victimhood you have. Even if someone did harm you, most
Mm-hmm.
people do not harm anybody intentionally.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Some people do. They're very bad people. There's something wrong with them if they do that, obviously.
Well, hurt
Yeah,
people hurt people, hurt
hurt people, hurt
people
people.
hurt
That's true.
people.
Yeah.
That's I think
Yeah.
that's how it happens.
There's in English, there's a phrase, it says misery loves company.
Oh.
And if you hang out with people who are miserable, they are going to suck the life out of you. And they just sit around complaining to each other. Oh, my life, it's even worse for me. Oh, it's even worse. That's why, joining groups who, or not, what would the groups be called? Support groups can turn into a
Oh,
cycle of just more and more negativity because it just becomes complaining, and no one's actually doing it. You might not end up, you might start feeling worse because you're just getting bombarded more with negative stories.
yeah, see, I was going for the support group, and I was like, at some point I was like, what I'm doing here, I'm just not talking, just listening
Yeah.
about, how shitty it gets, and we are
Yeah.
like just maybe praying somehow, and that's it. That's what there's nothing going on. I'm wasting my time there, so I stopped. But
Yeah.
yeah, but it's big, it's bigger than that, because you're building your whole world about this, how bad I am, hurt, and how bad I, have things.
Yeah.
Yeah,
All right. Well, that
So I
is,
really, want to just, Neil, acknowledge you for what you do. I
oh,
really
thank
want to. Really want to know that your story, your suffering was indispensable to the harmony of world, at least my world. And I don't know, without
you're
you,
making me emotional.
you know, without you, I don't know if I would know that there is a road for me, because there was nobody else who was spreading this philosophy and knowledge that you were back then. I was on my floor weeping and crying and going one YouTube video from today another, just not knowing why I'm in so much pain, and just came to your channel explaining like what are the at least patterns, like movement patterns. I was like, it was light bulb moment for me. It was life changing. I don't know. I'm scared to think what would have happened if I didn't, if your suffering was not in the God's plan. It was for me, and for I guess for many people, it was indispensable for the harmony.
Well, I thank you for that. And it there's another saying, I don't remember exactly how it goes, but it's something about having to make meaning out of your suffering. I think it was the guy who was in the concentration camp.
Mm,
He said
yeah.
making meaning out of your suffering. So okay, so you've suffered and you have one of two things. You can maintain your suffering and keep it going and continue to be negative and let it define you. Or you can say, you know what? Yeah, I'm suffering, but you know what? At least in the United States, I don't have bombs dropping on my head. I'm safe where I am. There's there's a lot of places in this world I could be that I would be in a lot worse situation. And yet some of them could still be happy, even in a war zone. So there's people out there that are suffering a heck of a lot more than me. So keep some perspective about this. And when I started to do that, I think it's weird about perspective. It doesn't necessarily make you feel better. It's
That's
like, perspective is great, but it doesn't have immediate like, oh, I feel better because of having perspective. And I think that's why they're like, yeah, I know, I'm living in the United States and everything actually theoretically is much better than most other places in the world, but I'm still not happy because it doesn't make you feel happier because you're living in your reality. But I
yeah.
think for me, obviously finding PRI and then finding salsa, and then actually being able to marry these two things together, Latin music and rhythms and PRI and how they actually go together and psychology, everything I love. I found a way to make meaning out of what I experienced that I can actually help others in the same situation, even if I can't help them directly, because a lot of times I can't. But if my story gives somebody like this hope that
Definitely. Yeah, definitely.
there's actually people that do talk about this. It might not be easy, but they understand that I feel twisted, and everyone else says I'm not twisted. It gives you. It has given me a lot of satisfaction over the years,
Wow.
and it feels good. Yeah, it sustains me, and I want to keep bringing more of this to the world through what I do, and like we've talked about, what I hope to give to the world more with rhythm and see how that turns out. But